22 years is a long time to be wrong about someone. I say that not with bitterness. I say it the way a man says it, after he has sat with the truth long enough for it to stop hurting and start making sense. The anger burned off a long time ago. What replaced it was clarity. And clarity, in my experience, is worth more than any emotion you can name. My name is Robert Callahan, 58 years old, structural engineer, Charlotte, North Carolina. 31 years building things that were designed to last. Bridges, foundations, the kind of work that goes 40 feet underground and holds everything above it without anyone ever thinking about it again. My wife's name was Linda. I want to be deliberate about that past tense because I earned it. When I met her in the summer of 2001 at a colleague's backyard dinner, she was laughing at something across the yard, and the sound of it landed in my chest in a way I had not expected. We married 14 months later in Asheville. 43 people. A cake her mother made from scratch. I cried once during the vows, and not again for 22 years. In those 22 years, I built everything we had. The 4-bedroom colonial in Ballantyne. Callahan Structural Group, which grew to 40 employees and contracts across 4 states. The house on Carmel Road that Linda redesigned twice. The pool she chose. The Audi she drove registered under my company fleet, and Marsh Interiors, her interior design business, which I funded completely and quietly in 2009, because that is what you do when you believe in your partner. Then came the Thursday in March. I had come home early from the office. A site meeting was canceled. Linda did not know I was coming. That detail matters. She was in the living room on the phone. I heard her before I saw her. Sound carries in that house, and I used to love that about it. I heard her say a name that did not belong in my house. And something in my chest did the opposite of what it had done at that backyard dinner in 2001. I stood in the hallway for 11 seconds. I counted. Engineers measure things. We do not guess. Then I walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, took out a water, sat down and opened my laptop. She came in 4 minutes later and stopped when she saw me. Robert. Her voice had the specific quality of a person recalibrating fast. I didn't hear you come in. Canceled meeting, I said without looking up. There is pasta in the fridge. She went upstairs. I finished my work. I said nothing. That night I lay in the dark next to Linda and did arithmetic, not emotional arithmetic, asset arithmetic. I knew exactly what we had and exactly how it was titled and exactly where every load-bearing point was. What I needed was someone who knew what to do with that information. I texted my attorney Gerald Fitch at 11:47. He responded at 11:52. 8 a.m. My office. That is why I pay him what I pay him. Gerald Fitch is 63 years old, 35 years in Mecklenburg County. The man who had structured every partnership agreement Callahan Structural had ever signed. I sat across from him the next morning and laid out the full picture in 20 minutes. No emotion, just facts. The name I had heard, the 22 years of assets, the structure of every account between Linda and me. Gerald listened without moving. When I finished, he picked up his pen. Walk me through the business accounts first, he said. Here is what Linda did not understand about 22 years of marriage to a structural engineer. I knew exactly how everything was built. Marsh Interiors operated out of an LLC I had created for her in 2011. The business account ran off a credit line under Callahan Structural Group. Her studio lease on Providence Road was under my company umbrella. The house on Carmel Road was purchased entirely in my name. Linda was listed as a marital co-occupant on the deed, not a co-owner. There is a difference, and it only becomes visible when things go wrong. Gerald looked at me over his reading glasses. "Robert," he said, "you have been more careful than most men I see in this office." "I build foundations for a living," I told him. "I do not put up a structure without knowing what is holding it." We sat together for 2.5 hours. By the time I walked out onto East Moorhead Street, the blueprint was drawn. Not aggressive, not emotional. Clean, the way you design a controlled demolition. You identify the load points and you remove them in sequence, and everything comes down exactly where you intended to. I went back to the office, answered emails, reviewed drawings for a parking deck in Raleigh, ate lunch at my desk, performed the complete role of a man having a completely ordinary Thursday. Linda texted at 2 in the afternoon, "Thinking about Ty tonight. You in?" I typed back, "Sounds good." The usual. She sent a thumbs up. Welcome to Dad's Raw Revenge. If you are new here, settle in, because this one goes all the way. Hit that like button and drop a comment below telling me where you are watching from. I read every single one. 4 hours after that thumbs up, Gerald's office made the first move. The operating line of credit linked to Marsh Interiors was flagged for review pending a business restructuring audit. Standard language. Completely legal. The kind of thing that looks like paperwork until it isn't. Linda called me at 6:12. "Robert, my card was declined at the fabric supplier. Something is wrong with the account." I said. "That is strange. I will have Gerald look at it tomorrow. It is embarrassing, Robert. I had a client order pending. I will sort it out," I said. "See you at home." I picked up Thai food on the way, set the table, poured her wine. We ate dinner and talked about our son Marcus and his semester at Clemson and whether the pool needed resurfacing before summer. I want you to sit with that image for a moment. Pad Thai and pool conversation while Gerald Fitch's office was quietly removing every financial support beam from the life Linda had assumed was hers by default. That is what calm looks like. Not performance, not ice, just a man who has already decided and is allowing the sequence to complete on his own schedule. Monday, Gerald filed the separation petition with Mecklenburg County. Tuesday, the Providence Road studio lease came up for quarterly review. Callahan Structural would not be renewing. 60 days notice per contract. Standard business decision. Wednesday, the fleet account manager was notified one vehicle would be returned at end of billing cycle. Thursday, I had coffee with my partner Dennis and talked about hiring 2 junior engineers. Friday, Linda sat down at the kitchen island and looked at me differently than she ever had before. "Robert, something is happening. The lease notice came today. The credit line is still frozen. The car." She stopped. "Is this about the phone call?" "What phone call?" I said. She stared at me. "Robert, Linda," I said quietly. "I think you should speak to an attorney." The color shifted in her face. Are we?" I stood up. "I have an early call tomorrow," I said. "Good night." I was almost to the hallway when she said it. "Robert, you built nothing that I did not help you build." "Nothing." I stopped. Turned around. Looked at her across the kitchen of the house I had designed and paid for and maintained for 8 years. I said nothing for 4 seconds. Then I said, "Good night, Linda." And I went upstairs. Some sentences do not deserve an argument. They deserve a record. And mine was already in Gerald Fitch's hands. The divorce proceedings took 7 months. Linda retained her own attorney who pushed hard on 3 things. Marsh Interiors as an independent asset. contribution to the marital home, and a claim against Callahan Structural Group itself. Gerald addressed each one the same way, methodically, without drama. The way a structural engineer addresses a load calculation. You do not argue with the math. You present it and let it hold. Marsh Interiors was ruled a business operating under the financial umbrella of Callahan Structural with no independent equity to divide. The house was sold and proceeds split per statute. The firm was ruled a premarital enterprise. Linda walked out of that courthouse on a gray October morning with her statutory share and nothing else that had not been hers going in. I watched her cross the parking lot from where I stood by Gerald's car. She looked like a woman who had spent 7 months fighting for a version of things that had never quite been real. Marcus called me that evening. He had been quiet through most of the 7 months, the way 19-year-olds are when the ground shifts, and they do not yet have the language for it. Dad, he said, "Are you okay?" I told him I was fine. I told him what happened between his mother and me had nothing to do with him and never would. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She told me what she said to you that night, that you built nothing." I held the phone. "Son," I said, "every foundation I have ever designed goes 40 feet underground. Nobody photographs it. Nobody thinks about it. But everything standing above it exists because it is there." He was quiet again. Then he said, "I want to be an engineer like you, Dad." I sat at my desk on South Tryon Street for a long time after that call. I am 58 years old. The Raleigh deck is on schedule. I have moved into a clean apartment in South End with good light and a view of the skyline. I do not think about Linda very often. That is not cruelty. That is completion. Here is what 31 years of building things taught me about the 7 months that just passed. A structure is only as strong as its foundation, not its surface, not its finish, not the way it looks to people walking past. The foundation, the invisible part, the part that was there before everything else. Linda spent 22 years living in what I built and told herself she had helped build it. Maybe she believed that. But belief does not change a load calculation. It does not alter a deed. It does not survive a clean set of documents in the hands of Gerald Fitch on a Tuesday morning in Mecklenburg County. She said, "I built nothing." The parking deck in Raleigh would like a word. Some men lose themselves in a betrayal. They burn things down. They make noise. They let the grief drive every decision. I am a structural engineer. I find the load points. I remove them in sequence, and I walk away from the site when the work is done. The work is done. If this story reached something in you, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. I will see you on the next one.